Paul, ministry support, and a misunderstood choice.
Part 4.
In the previous parts, we established 3 things from Scripture. Ministers have the right to support. Paul sometimes refused that support for strategic reasons, and his tent-making did not cancel his calling. Now, in Part 4, we must make an important distinction that Paul himself made. The difference between right, choice, and calling. Paul clearly taught that ministers have a right to receive support. But a right does not remove the freedom to choose. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 15, Paul says, "But I have used none of these things, nor have I written these things that it should be done so to me." Paul did not say the right was wrong. He said he personally chose not to use it in that moment. Then he adds, "It would be better for me to die than that anyone should make my boasting void." Paul's boasting was not pride. It was his freedom to preach the gospel without accusation in that context. This teaches us something very important. A personal sacrifice is not a universal command. Paul never told other ministers to copy his exact method. He told them to understand his heart. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 17, Paul explains his motivation. "For if I do this willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, I have been entrusted with his stewardship." Paul understood ministry as stewardship, not entitlement. This is why Paul could receive support in one place and refuse it in another. For example, in Philippians chapter 4, verse 15, Paul openly acknowledges support. "No church shared with me concerning giving and receiving, but you only." Then in verse 16, he adds, "For even in Thessalonica you sent aid once and again for my necessities." Paul did not feel guilty receiving support. He felt grateful. This proves Paul did not see receiving support as spiritual weakness. The mistake many people make is turning Paul's choice into a calling, and turning his calling into a law. Paul's calling came from God. His right was granted by the Lord. His choice was guided by love and wisdom. When these 3 are confused, pressure enters ministry. Ministers feel condemned for receiving support, and churches feel justified in neglecting responsibility. But Scripture does not support that imbalance. Paul teaches us flexibility, not extremism. Wisdom, not rigid imitation. In the next part, we will examine why Paul strongly warned against using his example to burden ministers, and how the early church actually understood support.